What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Comparisons Ball Review, where today we're going to be featuring the all-new Storm Absolute Power. We're going to have a straighter female and a higher rev male, so that way you get the bowling ball from two different perspectives. We're also going to be including some Specto data. Due to the popularity of our Perception versus Reality video featuring the urethane bowling balls, we're now going to feature Specto data in my analysis in every single Comparisons Ball Review. So make sure you stay to the end where we dive deep into the Specto data. But let's get into the players' shots and see what they think of the new Storm Absolute Power.
It's a little better.
Do you feel like you're getting lined up?
Yes, I love the Absolute, so I was super excited to try the Absolute Power. So I'm getting lined up, trying to see where it's best gonna line up. So throwing some shots, liking it so far, so.
Perfect.
I think the girls with their nails done now.
So Katie, the original Absolute, did you like it right out of the box, or did it take time to grow on you?
I absolutely loved it out of the box. I haven't touched the surface yet. I've had it for a few months. I use it mainly here at Lakeview, and I've absolutely loved it. It's just one of those balls that stores up energy and snaps at the back, and that's kind of my powerhouse. That's my A game, so I love the Absolute.
Okay, great. Now those 10 shots with Specto, did you find yourself moving around much, or did you kind of stay in the same spot with your feet and your eyes?
Yeah, I made little adjustments. Early on, I went one right with my feet. It's fresh, it's a little tight down there, and it's out of the box, so no surface. So I did find myself kind of squaring up a little bit, being a little bit more parallel. And then that last shot, I did go 2-in-1, just to kind of maybe take care of those 10 pins. So yeah, I moved just a few adjustments here and there.
Okay, cool. All right, so what are we gonna compare to next? Reality or Absolute?
I'm gonna do the Absolute, my tried and true.
Perfect. What do you expect the Absolute to do in comparison to the Absolute Power? Any expectations yet, or just completely open-minded?
No expectations, but what I am seeing as of now, I do feel like my Absolute is gonna go a little bit longer, give me more of that snap at the end. I like the Absolute Power so far, but this is the OG, so trying to keep a fresh slate here so I can get a good read for both of them.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna start same spot with the Absolute from the Absolute Power. Love that ball.
So first thoughts on the difference between the two?
Yeah, so the OG Absolute goes a little bit longer, has a stronger back end. The Absolute Power, it's a little earlier. Definitely a little bit of a difference between both of them, but I like what I see in both of them.
As of right now, in the conditions you're bowling on right now, would you go with the Absolute Power or the Absolute?
I would probably go with the Absolute as of now. It seems to be a little bit more versatile. Even on that shot, I moved 2-in-1 left, even more than my other shot with the Absolute Power. I think the Absolute Power has the potential to be just as versatile. Probably would just add some surface to it. All right, with the Reality, I'm gonna move kind of back to that little benchmark area, standing around 13, 14.
Have you had to move at all off of either of the other two balls with the Reality?
So I did go ahead and move left with the Reality, just to kind of see what it would do. Super strong in the back ends. Still gives me that good early roll too. I'm now where I'm at, where I ended with my Absolute. So I am a little bit further left. I am a player that likes to be a little bit straighter through the fronts, be a little bit more parallel. But I do like when balls give me the chance to open up a little bit, throw it right. So yeah, liking what I see.
Okay. So finishing off there with the Absolute Power, what do you think your final rating is of the ball, and what are your thoughts relative to the other balls? Who should look for the ball? What styles maybe might be good, might not be good?
I think I'm going to give it a fire rating for today. I really like the motion of it. I like how strong it is. And in comparison to my Reality, it's very similar, which I like. I would probably add just a little bit of surface to the Absolute Power, and I'd probably use it for tournament play, so it can really get through those higher volume oil patterns. Compared to the Absolute, obviously the Absolute is a pearl, Absolute Power is a solid, so ball motions are different, but I think that it's a good complement to the Absolute, so I definitely put it in my bag.
Cool. So it sounds like Absolute maybe for the house shot, Absolute Power for maybe the sport shots is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we got Ryan Riley back. Absolute Power today. Ready to go? Any expectations? Anything you're expecting out of the ball, or just we'll see what happens?
We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a little cleaner than most big balls, so I'm pretty excited. So.
Okay, cool.
Say flipping the candles glitter like you're in a thriller. Heart goes pum pum pum. Ghostly figures they can get so bitter. Show you want to until you can turn back. You don't know where I.
First thought, this ball is a lot cleaner than I thought it was going to be, so it's probably going to be really good on house shots. Let's throw a couple more.
I'm really not that cozy. It's up to you, so you decide.
Well, what do you think so far?
I like it. It's actually really clean to the front for an ace-in ball, so it's probably going to get some use for me because typically I can't throw big balls when they're not as much volume up front, so
Okay.
make another move and see how far left I can get.
Okay, cool. Just keep letting us know what you're moving.
I'm going to move another 5 with my feet. Oh, terrible shot. Hopefully we can just edit that one out.
What are we switching to next, and what do you expect out of what you're switching to?
So I'm going to go to an Eternity Pie. It's got a little bit more surface on it. I've thrown it quite a bit, so I think it's going to be a lot earlier and smoother. So I'll stand and I'll move back to where I was striking and see what it does from there.
Okay.
Will never work. I'm a little bit absurd. I like dancing on the verge. Anyone can love a pretty little mansion, but could you love a
All right.
So Ryan, you feel like you need a couple more shots, or what's your first thoughts on Eternity Pie versus Absolute Power?
Much earlier. Even though this one's got a little shine on it, it's much earlier and smoother. So now I'm going to do like a 3 and 2 right and see what we get. That was pretty good. It was about 3 and 2 right.
Okay.
Fed right where I thought it was going to. So.
And just to clarify, as a power player for you, even though you moved right with the ball, you still identified that ball as a stronger ball because it was earlier?
Because of how much earlier it picks up, absolutely. So
Got it.
I like seeing my ball hook front to back, especially on the pattern. So
Yeah. And because of your ball roll, when the ball's earlier and stronger, it actually stops hooking down lane.
yeah.
Where the other ball will actually continue hooking.
Yep, absolutely. That's one of the biggest, so I could usually get away with a bigger ball, a little bit more friction, just because my ball speed and how early it hooks for me. And then as soon as I have to get left, the big balls kind of go out of play. And sometimes I'm missing that gap between big ball symmetrical. So I think the Absolute Power will fill that gap.
Okay, cool.
I will compare to the Summit.
And then I'll do the final review.
Okay. I'm probably going to stay in the same spot as the Eternity Pie.
Perfect. So Ryan, now that you have 5 shots with the Summit, do you feel like you have to be further right because it's just much softer and weaker off the spot, or do you think you have to be further right because it is so much sooner?
I think I have to be further right because it's so much sooner.
Okay.
Like I said, it has more surface than the other two. So, and for me, it's always been pretty early in. It's a stronger pin, so it makes sense. So.
Okay. So Ryan, absolute power, what's your final rating? Who should be looking at this ball? What conditions do you think it's best for?
I'd rate this a fire.
Okay.
For me, I'm going to use it. It's probably going to be really good on house shots, or it's going to be that in between where you got to get out of a big ball, but when you move in, the symmetricals just aren't quite right. There's so much cleaner through the front. I think it's going to be a house shot killer.
Okay.
Any style, just because of how clean the cover is. So.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. So Katie really liked the Absolute on house and this on sport. Do you feel like because you're quite a bit different style, you kind of see that a little differently?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because her ball speed's a lot lower than mine, so her ball's going to get to see the front part sooner than mine's going to. I have to get the surface to get it and see it, so.
I also think she maybe liked the Absolute a little bit more than this one. It sounds like you maybe like this one a little bit more than the Absolute pop.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolute for me was just too clean and too quick. I didn't really get to throw it on too many things, so
right.
This one's going to be much more useful to me.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, man.
Okay, so that's what our players think. What does the Specto data say? Well, let's start off with our straighter player, Katie. Starting off in the change of direction category, you can see exactly what Katie was mentioning in the video, which was that the Absolute created more change of direction in the back part of the lane and in general than the other two bowling balls. But this is kind of what we would expect since the Absolute's a Pearl and the other two bowling balls are not. So once we dive into the two bowling balls who are not Pearl, we start to get some interesting information that maybe Katie couldn't even put into words in the video, which is that the reality slowed down quite a bit more than the Absolute power in the front part of the lane. Now, normally when you see this, the bowling ball that doesn't slow down as much in the heads typically will slow down more in the backs or have more change of direction in the back part of the lane because it didn't slow down as much in the front part of the lane. In this case, what's interesting is the Absolute power, even though it only slowed down 0.3 in the heads versus the reality's 0.5, you do not see the Absolute power slow down any more in the back part of the lane or change direction any more in the back part of the lane than the reality. Now, this could be a sign that even when Katie adds surface to the Absolute power like she mentioned in the video, she may still not end up liking it if it doesn't end up creating the change of direction that she needs throughout the entire lane. In Ryan's case, let's start off with the simple stuff. The 3 bowling balls had about the same total amount of hook. This is because he was in 3 different parts of the lane. The Absolute power had the most change of direction down lane, which is why he was the furthest left with that bowling ball. Eternity Pie, a little less change of direction, which is why he was a little right with that ball. And the Summit had the least change of direction down lane, which is why he was further right with that ball. Now, the interesting or maybe useful piece of information here actually gives us a peek into how bowlers can get trapped into the feast or famine ball reaction. Quite often in this scenario, the bowler would choose the Absolute power to be that ball of choice for league. And that's mainly because it allows them to be the furthest left. It creates the most angle down lane. It's the most fun to bowl with and watch strike. But the key information here is the speed loss in the mids. We'll see that the Eternity Pie has almost 50% more speed loss than the Absolute power in the mids, 0.6 to 0.4. Now, often if you see a bowling ball slow down that much more in the middles, you would expect it to have a lot less change of direction down lane. Now, while the Eternity Pie does have a little less change of direction down lane at 9.7 versus Absolute Power's 10.2, that's not really a big difference. And 9.7 is still a good amount of change of direction down lane. Another way to see that the Eternity Pie is kind of outperforming in this way, relative its speed loss in the mids relative to its change of direction, is comparing it to the Summit. The Summit, the speed loss in the mids is quite close at 0.7, but the change of direction down lane is a full point lower. Again, just showing you that the Eternity Pie is slowing down a little bit more in the middle part of the lane, but still performing very well in terms of change of direction. Now, why would this be better ball reaction? Why would it be the better ball to choose? basically because you're never going to throw it perfect. Most of us are not going to throw it perfect every time. The absolute power, while it's going to create a lot of angle down lane, look really cool, be fun to throw. If you get a little quick with it, you get it a little right too fast, it's not going to want to slow down in the middle part of the lane quickly enough. It's going to be very easy 2-8-10, 2-10, or just even if it makes it back to the pocket, ring 10, because you just get too far behind the head pin, creating too much angle and wrapping the 6 pin around the 10. So the interesting information for Ryan is that he likely would probably average over 2 or 3 games higher with the Eternity Pie than the Absolute Power. If you want to see these same players do the same type of review in my Specto analysis on the all-new Storm Summit Peak, then check out this video right here. But as always, if you want anything bowling, make sure you subscribe. We appreciate all the support, and thanks for watching.